TCT presents Public Report, a look at the issues and events of importance to our viewing area. Now, here's your host.
Hello, welcome to Public Report. I am your host, Richard McCorkle. I am here with my lovely co-host and wife, Krista McCorkle. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome.
How are you feeling today? You ready to interview somebody,
Yes,
a spectacular powerhouse of a person?
Yes, excited.
Our guest here is Valarie Gibson Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to reminisce, the first time I met you was at a talent show that was actually an auditioning for something, for another network's getting a big something. I don't remember what the event was, but I remember your voice.
Yes.
And I was a recording engineer at the time, and I remember listening to you, and I was like, I have a mic that would fit your voice, and I just wanted you in the studio, whatever it took. And I got you there.
You did.
And let me tell you, it didn't matter what kind of mic I had. You have an absolutely gifted, heavenly voice, first of all.
Thank you. You're so kind.
So thank you for gracing us with your voice today.
Thank you.
And your story, And you are a gospel singer.
I am.
And you also are involved with law.
I am.
So give us a little background of who you are right now.
Well, I am Valarie Gibson Thomas, born and raised in the wonderful city of Miami, Florida, in a little area called Opelika. You've got to really be from there to know where Opelika is. And I am a wife of 26 years, a mother of 3 wonderful, amazing children.
Awesome.
And I just love to sing God's praises. I love the Lord. I am first and foremost, I think, outside of being a wife and mother, a music minister. Okay. I enjoy singing gospel music. I enjoy singing, gospel jazz. I enjoy being a mom, but I also enjoy being an attorney.
Yes.
I am a licensed attorney in the state of North Carolina, and I am currently a senior counsel at a pharmaceutical company, and I basically work in the pharmaceutical industry in clinical trials, mainly helping to, progress everything legal in clinical trials, making sure that people are safe and companies are protecting the subjects as well as themselves.
Right.
Do you get any sleep?
I do. I do get sleep, but I don't get enough sleep.
Yes.
I think I slept all the way here as I was driving.
Oh, okay.
I remember leaving. I remember getting here. Yeah.
So let's talk about your music ministry.
Yes.
What is your earliest memories of music?
My earliest memories of music is being about 6 or 7 years old, singing in the junior choir, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine." And I was so nervous, I couldn't hold my own microphone. A lady by the name of Myrtle Ross, and I remember she was always there holding my mic and basically at the same time saying, "Sing in the mic, sing in the mic." So that was my earliest memories, and I spent the years growing up in church, in the youth choir and the junior choir. And I also started singing at about 9 years old. One of my mom's friends was a member of the Florida Mass Choir. And I don't know, for those choir people out there, they would remember the Florida Mass Choir singing "Be Ye Steadfast" and
I remember that.
Songs.
Oh yeah, those old.
I started traveling with the Florida Mass Choir when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And my mom allowed me to join when I became 12 years old, but I traveled from the time I was 9. And I sang with them through college. And so we had a number of recordings. We did a lot of traveling. We did a lot of singing. And that was where I grew up in music, the church and in the Florida Mass Choir. So I grew up in workshops and lots of music ministry, lots of teaching of music, meeting lots of people who, many of them have gone on to be with the Lord. Some of them are still here writing and singing and just having a great time. Those people grew me up. Yes. They protected me and they grew me up in the word and the music.
And your mother, she was a singer.
My mom was a singer. My mother, Maggie Gibson is her name. I love to call her name. She's no longer with us, but my mom was a singer. She would sing washing dishes. She would sing, washing clothes. I think she would sing she never sang when she was when she had the belt in her hand and she was, let's just call it, giving me a nice little chastising. But she sang all the time. She sang, she hummed. She did that all of the time. And she sang in church, you know, songs like "How I Got Over," you know, songs that we don't hear a lot of times in our churches now. But she sang until, as a matter of fact, she had Alzheimer's. And I had the privilege of taking care of her for 9 years. Here in North Carolina. I moved her up from Florida, moved her here, took care of her, and I learned a very amazing thing about music through her, and that is when she couldn't no longer remember her family, no longer remember me, no longer remember how to eat and how to do basic things, she was still humming, she was still singing, and I learned that the base of the brain has, whatever the stem is in the base of the brain, it holds music, and it's the last thing to go. So until the very last months, she was still humming. Wow. When she couldn't remember the words, she would hum the tune as we would sing to her.
Oh my God.
So that to me says a lot about the power of music and what God has invested in music on the earth. And so I think, you know, coming full circle now as a music minister, that is a part of not just my testimony, but that's my passion.
Yes.
You know, music, because God has placed something so wonderful in music.
Yes.
It calms the savage beast, right?
Yes.
But it inspires. Whenever I'm on a plane and we're in the middle of turbulence, I can sing, you know, he that hideth in the secret place of the Most High. I can, I don't, you know, I don't necessarily remember the scripture. I remember the song. Therefore, I remember the scripture. So music is very powerful, and my mom was a very great example to me of just growing up and singing in the church choir. I sing mostly by myself, sometimes with groups, but I am a choir baby.
Yes.
I can sing in the choir. If I had a choice, I would rather be in a mic in front of a choir than in front of a group or by myself.
Right. Wow. That is so funny, because I know I tend to forget how important church plays a part in a person's musical career. Because I can't think of anything as a professional musician, and when growing up in my teenage years, of where was the place where I was able to play my music. It certainly wasn't in high school to begin with.
Right.
It always was at church, and it was, and so many artists will tell you they had their, even if they went into the secular or did both, there was such a strong foundation in the church for music.
And you know, that's one of my soapboxes. Because so many of our churches, as we have gotten away from many times the more traditional church and we've become the word church or the charismatic church, we've thrown away the baby with the bath water. You know, we never think of it that way, but we have. Church is such a wonderful foundational place for children to learn to sing. How can you have a church with hundreds and thousands of members and you have no youth choir? You've got a youth worship team maybe, but really who's really doing it that well at 14 and 15? There are some, but the majority need a choir to learn how to blend, how to mix, how to get along with people, how to, you know, there's so many wonderful things about being in a choir, not just learning the songs, but learning, you know, just order and how does the service operate, you know, how to minister, knowing how to minister when the Spirit is falling, knowing, you know, how to, you know, just so many things you're learning. One of my most wonderful experiences was creating a youth choir at Christian Faith Center in Creedmoor, North Carolina, under the leadership of Bishop Mack and Pastor Brenda Timberlake. That was the most amazing experience of my life, the most amazing church experience of my life, serving Bishop Timberlake not only as a music leader in the church, but also as director of this choir of kids. Because we had 125 kids. And my focus was on the kids. We had leaders. I even though I'm a gospel artist and I love to sing, you know, I can get in a mic and, you know, and do my part. But I was determined, I will not lead a song with these kids. They will sing. I will train them to sing. I will train them to lead. They're not my backup. I'm here to serve them. Because they're going to serve the kingdom. And many of them now are singing. They're pastors. One of them is a minister serving under Rod Parsley right now. He's married to his minister of music. Others are doing great things. One of them is pastoring. I think Bishop Timberlake's son, who is also one of our members, is now pastoring Christian Faith Center. There are so many wonderful things that come out of the choir that we take so for granted in the church. But it's such a wonderful place to grow up.
Yeah, it is. And I want to back up to your mom again. And she said she had passed away, and it was because of dementia, was it? And I remember a while back we were talking about that. We had this conversation, and you taking care of her. There's a lot of people out there who are taking care of their parents. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it is the hardest job I'd ever done, but it was the most rewarding thing I'd ever done. I wouldn't change a thing. When I was ready to go, my first career was as a financial advisor, and I had a business, and I decided to go to law school. And I told my mom, and she said to me, "That's great. How long is it going to take?" I said, 3 years. She said, "After the 3 years, I'm going to need you to come get me." So she already knew that something was wrong.
Wow.
She had a sister that had dementia, but there were things that she could normally do that I'd never seen anyone do, like balance your checkbook in your head. Are you kidding me? I can't balance my checkbook with a calculator. But she would balance it in her head, and she would know to the penny what's in there, you know. But she forgot even how to write checks. And so we began this journey there. After I finished law school, I went to pick her up. Probably 2 days, I think. I think I slept for 2 days after I took the bar exam, and then I went home to get her. And it was amazing that she was able to even live by herself. The Lord kept her.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know it then, that you could talk to somebody on the phone every day and not know that they can't tell the difference between night and day.
Yes.
My mom was, I found out later, was driving at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and doing things that her friends, they kept it all secret from me because they knew I was studying for the bar, you know, and they all said, "Your mom made us promise we wouldn't tell you until after the bar exam."
Wow.
But after the bar exam, boy, the floodgates open, and I learned lots of things. Like she was, you know, she would go to sing at church with her robe on. On Sunday, she didn't have to sing. Sometimes she would show up in a slip or a black shoe and a white shoe, different things. So dementia is a very cruel disease. But I had the opportunity to take care of her. And it was a blessing. It was difficult, but I involved my kids. We all took care of her together. We did her hair together. We lotioned her. We bathed her. We did what we could. And when the time came that we could no longer care for her in the home, and she had to be placed in a facility, we visited often, so much so that the doctor actually called me one day and said, "Look, your mother's never going to adjust to being here.
Wow.
If you show up every day." You know, if you I said, "Okay, I'll show up every other day."
Yes,
but you know, it was just one of those things that you never want to have to do. But my mom was smart. She called me home a few years before I started law school, and she said, "I want to move all of my things over to you. I want to move the house into your name. I want to move over."
Yes.
And we moved everything over. She said, "Are you going to take care of me when I get sick and I can't take care of myself?" I said, "Absolutely." I'm her only child. I said, "Absolutely."
Yes.
She said, "Okay, so let's move everything over into your name because I want you to have it.
Wow.
And I want to know that you have it."
Right.
So we did that, which was, you know, legally, which was a very smart thing to do because generally people don't think about getting things turned over to them until their relatives are ill. But the way the law works, you know, your parents can give you, you know, their house, their cars, and everything. But if they end up needing assistance from the state, or the government at any level for care, all of those things are going to be considered still a part of their estate if it's within 3 years.
Yes.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't know that. That's why once they're sick and once you need care, it's really too late. So these are things we need to think of. I know we're kind of slipping a little bit on the legal side.
No, this is good because people need to hear this
But
too.
these are things that we need to think about and that as parents, we need to think about.
Yes.
You know, as you're getting older, maybe you need to talk to an estate planning attorney and look at, you know, trusts. You know, how can we set up a trust so that all of my valuables go to my children, my real property and things like personal property and things like that. So we took care of Mom, and it was an amazing experience. And I think one of the things that I remember the most was the day I was in her room, and she looked at me, and I had my little kids, and she said, "You are so sweet. You're here every day. Honey, who are your people?" And I said, first I caught myself, you know, because I thought, and I said, "You're my mom." And she said, "Oh no, I never had any children." See, she was 40 when she had me.
Yes.
But her memory had been eaten back you know, it starts with the current memory, but then it kind of eats its way back.
Wow.
And so she had just gotten back about 40 more than 40 years.
Yes.
Of, you know, and she just didn't remember me. So I told her the story about, you know, how I was a tumor and you went to get me taken out and they found out at the last minute you were pregnant. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you." And she said, "Valarie, how are you?"
Wow.
So, you know, it's a very difficult thing, but when
Yes.
you're taking care of your loved ones, if you can remember that the most important thing is not that they remember you, is that you remember them. Because my mom has remembered me all of her life.
Right.
Now it was time for me to remember her.
Wow.
That's powerful.
And that was something that kept me, because it kept me from being, you know, you have your moments of sadness, but it kept me from feeling, I don't know, it just made it bearable.
Yes.
You know, sometimes barely. Sometimes I would go to the facility, I'd get to the door, and I'd turn around and walk away and go home.
Yeah.
But most times I walked in with a smile.
Yes.
You know, I still washed her clothes, I still did her hair, I still did all those things. I still brought the children in because I wanted them to understand that your place in life sometimes is to care for those people who have cared for you.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, so you are a support system for your mom, obviously. Who or what was your support system?
Friends, my family, friends and family, and really just the Word of God, just trusting. I had such a wonderful life. My mom was a good mom, you know, and we had fun, and I could think on those things, but I just, I think just really trusting God and family and friends. I had friends who would call. I had one friend who said, you know, Cynthia Kaysen said, you know, I love to iron. Can I iron your mom's clothes after you wash them so you don't have to do? Because at one time we were still ironing everything.
Right, right.
And then I had another friend who was a social worker, you know, and Felicia would say, I'm going to go by and check on your mom today. My mom got to the point one time where she stopped eating and she would only eat from men. So Felicia would take her husband, Jimmy, and Jimmy would feed my mom.
Wow.
Ooh.
It was the most amazing thing.
Wow.
She would sit there and she would just smile at Jimmy, and she would eat the food. You know, we try to give it to her,
All
and she
right.
just,
No kidding.
All right.
Jimmy would come in and she would smile and eat the food. So I had friends who supported me. I had another friend who just made sure that legal things were in order, because the Lord had spoken to me and said, you know, after a number of years, and said, you know, it's time to get things in order.
Yes.
I was sitting in the parking lot on my way to Walmart, coming back from visiting her late at night, and the Lord said, it's time for you to get things in order. Because she had been in that state maybe 7 years at that time.
Yes, yes.
And He gave me another 2 years, and I still didn't do everything, because who wants to write an obituary for someone who's still
Certainly,
here?
certainly. But
Yeah.
you know what? One of the things I'm so grateful, I was raised in a family that they were never afraid to talk about the inevitable that was going to happen, or something would happen, and anything from DNRs to power of attorneys, all that stuff. And we have to be responsible for the lives that God has given us. We have to be stewards of it. And that includes a lot of legal things.
Absolutely.
Because if you can't take care of it, somebody else is going to take care of it.
Absolutely.
You just even alluded to that earlier. So how do you, I mean, you must have a great advantage having the legal mind, and then I guess the right and left brain working pretty good in sync there.
Yeah, but you know, when it's your mom, when it's your parent,
Yes.
Legally, I know that I should have had some things done a long time ago. But my emotions were saying, you know, it was almost like if I sit down to write the obituary, it almost felt like I wanted it to happen, and I
Right.
didn't want it to happen.
Right, sure.
So I figured that I had God's hand behind his back. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
felt like I had his hands tied. He couldn't take her because he told me to get things in order. I'm not getting them in order. I'm not ready yet. You're gonna have to wait.
Wow.
If you take her, you're gonna have to snatch her out of my hands, which eventually he did.
Yes.
But the legal mind, yeah, it's there, but the emotions were still hard. But once because the Lord should not have had to speak to me, because I do have a legal mind.
Yes.
But He did have to speak to me, because I think my emotions had taken precedent over the things that I should have done, and I eventually got things done. And when she passed away, my friends Pam and Grover Birthday, they own a funeral service, and I'd already paid for the funeral. I'd already chosen. My best friend had gone with me to the funeral home, and I'd already chosen things, and we had already gotten everything except finishing the obituary. Because I didn't want to put that stamp of I'm done.
Right.
Because now we're waiting. And she had been on hospice a couple times. Actually, the hospice kicked her off the first time. They said, look, your mom's not going anywhere. We're going to lose our federal funding fooling around with your mom. She's living and she's not going anywhere. But eventually they picked her back up and she passed on. And, it was okay, because even though it was sad, it's hard to feel sad for someone who's in the arms of the Lord.
Oh, absolutely.
And she lived a good life. I hate that she suffered, and I don't really understand that, but what I do understand is that it gave me an opportunity to honor her and to show my kids how to take care of people that you love.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. And what would you say to someone that's listening that is dealing with this right now? An encouraging word, something that you can just give them some, just some a sense of peace.
Well, what I would say is, first of all, trust God, because He's got to get you through this. Don't forget to pray in the midst of all of the craziness that's going on and all the busyness. Get your affairs in order. You know it's going to happen. Look, I can speak for the Black community somewhat because I'm in it.
Yes.
And I see, even in my own family, we don't want to talk about death. We think if we don't talk about it, if we don't get things in order, it's not going to happen.
That's going to happen.
Not so. People have been dying. We come here, we leave here. And so get your affairs in order. If you need I would encourage everybody to get a book. There's a book called The 36-Hour Day. And the 36-hour day will give you a glimpse into not only your loved one's life, but also into how you can care for them and things you can do. They have Alzheimer's. Pull out the pictures. They may not remember you, but they'll remember other pictures and other family. There are things you have to learn to live in their world. What frustrates us so is that we continue to try to have them live in our world. What I learned from one of my mom's doctors is, okay, it's now time for you to live in her world. And that's a hard thing to do, but you got to live in her world. She didn't know that my dad was dead. So when she would ask for him, I had to stop telling her, because every time it was like she was hearing it for the first time. Imagine the shock over and over again. So we've got to be wise. We really have to be wise in how we deal with people with dementia. We have to understand what their fears are. They have fears. They have concerns. They are thinking. It may not be rational, but they are thinking. And what you want to do is love them and give them the things that they need. Sometimes, when it gets down to the latter days, I was at the nursing home saying, I need to make sure she's getting her vegetables and her, protein and her. And one of the hospice counselors said, but she wants chocolate. She's dying. What are you going to do? Is she going to starve? Or are you going to give her chocolate? Right. I went to Wendy's. I bought her a chocolate Frosty every other day. You want chocolate, sweetheart? Chocolate you have.
Absolutely.
And I put chocolate in her room, and I said if she wouldn't eat her food, give her a chocolate cookie.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
Because we want her happy.
Yes.
So yeah.
Wow, that's really good.
But the music ministry, how were you involved still in the music ministry while you were going through this with Mom?
I was still involved in the music ministry. I was leading worship.
Okay.
I was still involved. I don't know now how it gets done. I still had the 3 kids. I think my youngest was actually my mom. When we brought my mom here, I only had 1 child. I was pregnant with my 2nd child, and then we had a 3rd child.
Yes.
So it was just busy. Some nights I would go home, put the kids to bed, and if I had enough energy to drive over to the nursing facility, I would drive there, and I would fall asleep. I would call home, and I would say to my husband, call me and wake me up at 6:30.
Wow.
Or 6 o'clock, and then I would just stay there all night.
Yes.
And then go home. So there were some nights like that. It was tough, but it didn't feel that tough at the time. It just felt like I was doing what I had to do.
You did good.
Thank you.
And also your CD. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Your latest CD.
My CD is entitled Winter Soul. It is a Christmas EP, actually. It was named by my youngest daughter, Simone. we were looking for a name, and she said Winter Soul. And at first I thought, what's she talking about? But then I thought, I like that.
Yeah.
So all the pieces fell together, and I called a friend in Atlanta, and I said, hey, it was maybe November, the middle of November. I said, hey, I'm going to do a CD, a Christmas CD. He said, oh, great, for next year? I said, no, for this year. He said, why are you calling me? I said, because I need you to produce it.
Yes.
And every piece fell into place. And within 1 month, it actually was released on iTunes and all of the digital places that sell digital music on December 24th.
Exciting.
Wow.
Exciting.
We recorded in my home. At the time, we had lots of space in this home, and I had a music room, a conservatory. I have a friend who's a sound guy. He does sound for Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond and all these guys. And he said, I believe in you. I want to do this for you. Come let me do this. So I had my producer. I had the sound, and it was a wrap. Had a friend who came over and said, I'm a makeup artist, and you were so nice to me and my family when we were kids. I love you. I think so much about you. I'd love to do this for you. Had another friend who said, hey, I'm a professional photographer now.
Wow.
And I'd love to come up. So everything fell into place.
It did, and I really love your picture on there too. And where can people get it?
iTunes, Google, Amazon, any place that sells digital music, you can go on and purchase it. Please go on and purchase it and make comments. Let me know how you like it. I am actually going to be, because I do have some folks, some older people who said, look, we don't do digital music. Like, what is that? Like, I don't even have a computer.
Right.
So I'm actually going back now, and I'm going to actually press out some CDs for sale.
Oh, good.
But that'll be later on in the year. But right now, if you go onto iTunes or CD Baby or any of those places, you should be able to find it.
Awesome. And you still sing live and so forth?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. So we can keep an eye out for you. And your stuff that we can purchase under Valarie Gibson Thomas, is that correct? So if
Absolutely.
we can just type that in under iTunes and all that stuff.
Absolutely. It's V-A-L-A Gibson,
That's right.
Valarie Gibson Thomas.
Gotcha.
The Gibsons are a very musical family in the Bahamas, so I had to I had to give a shout out to the Gibsons, so I put the name on there.
Well, it was an honor for you to come, honor for us,
Yes.
for you to come
Yes, it
on.
was.
We've been fans of you, obviously, for a while.
Well, I've been a fan of yours, and you and I have worked together. You were very, very kind to me when I was in your studio, very inspirational, and thank you.
That.
Thank you so much.
Balance, balance, balance. You can do everything with God. Thank you for joining us.
This has been Public Report. Public Report discusses the issues of interest and importance to our viewing area. Please remember that the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of TCT or the station.
I'm Pastor Phil Clark at Cornerstone Community Church. I remember when Jesus was talking to the disciples said, Lord, teach us how to pray. Lord began to say, pray after this manner. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. There came a time that it met with repentance. One of the things that we are terribly wrong today is not forgiving anyone. That's something we need to work on. God bless you.